You wake up one morning, scroll your phone, half asleep, and there it is. Another engagement post. Another, I just turned 30 and bought my dream house caption. Another subtle reminder that somehow, without anyone formally announcing it, a countdown clock has been ticking in the background of your life. And now, it's loud. 30. Not old, not young, just heavy. And you start wondering why a number that's supposed to be just another birthday suddenly feels like a verdict. What's strange is that nothing physically changes overnight. Your brain doesn't suddenly downgrade. Your potential doesn't expire. You don't wake up with a cosmic stamp on your forehead that says, time's up. Yet, emotionally, turning 30 often feels like crossing an invisible border. Like the door quietly closes behind you, and now the path forward feels narrower, more serious, more final. And the question isn't, why am I 30? It's, why does my brain treat this like a deadline? That feeling isn't random. It isn't weakness. And it definitely isn't you failing at life. It's psychology doing what it does best, creating meaning, pressure, and stories where none objectively exist. Your brain loves milestones, not because they're accurate, but because they're convenient. Humans have always used round numbers to organize chaos. Ancient civilizations marked age thresholds as rites of passage. Modern society turned them into life scripts. Finish school by this age, build a career by that age, fall in love by this one, settle down by 30. Even if no one ever sat you down and said these rules out loud, you absorb them anyway. Through movies, through family comments, through casual jokes, through that one aunt who keeps asking if you're serious about your life yet. By the time you approach 30, your brain starts running a background audit. It compares where you are with where you thought you'd be. And here's the problem. Your expectations were built using incomplete information. You imagined adulthood as a straight line, not a maze. You assumed clarity would arrive with age, not realizing that clarity often comes after confusion, detours, and mistakes. So when your real life doesn't match the imagined version, your brain doesn't say, "Oh, expectations were unrealistic." It says, "You're behind." Psychologists call this the social clock. It's the internalized timeline of when major life events are supposed to happen. And when you feel out of sync with it, even if you're objectively doing fine, your brain interprets that mismatch as danger. Not physical danger, but existential danger. The kind that whispers, "You're running out of time." And time scarcity changes everything. When your brain believes time is limited, it becomes harsher, more judgmental, less playful. You stop asking, "What do I want?" and start asking, "What should I have already done?" That shift alone can turn 30 into a psychological pressure cooker. There's also something else happening beneath the surface. Around your late 20s, your brain's prefrontal cortex is fully developed. That's the part responsible for long-term planning, self-evaluation, and future thinking. In simpler terms, your brain finally gets really good at seeing consequences, which sounds like a good thing, but it also means you become acutely aware of paths not taken, opportunities missed, decisions delayed. When you were younger, uncertainty felt exciting. At 30, uncertainty can feel threatening. That's why questions you once brushed off suddenly hit harder. What am I doing with my life? Is this career really it? Did I choose the wrong person? Or not choose anyone at all? These aren't new questions. Your brain just didn't have the full processing power to sit with them before. Now it does. And it won't shut up about it. Add social comparison to the mix, and things really spiral. Your brain isn't comparing your behind the scenes to someone else's reality. It's comparing your internal doubts to their highlight reel. Engagements, promotions, babies, big announcements wrapped in perfect lighting. Even if you logically know this is curated, your nervous system reacts as if it's evidence. Evidence that others are ahead and you're late. What makes turning 30 especially intense is that it often coincides with a loss of perceived flexibility. In your early 20s, experimenting feels allowed. Quitting jobs, changing directions, making mistakes. Society calls it finding yourself. At 30, the same behavior gets labeled as instability. So the psychological safety net disappears. Your brain thinks, if I mess up now, it counts. This is where the deadline feeling really locks in. Not because time actually ran out, but because your margin for error feels smaller. And when the margin for error shrinks, anxiety grows. But here's the part no one tells you. The feeling that 30 is a deadline is not a signal that you're late. It's a signal that you're transitioning. You're moving from externally defined success to internally defined meaning. The discomfort comes from the shift, not from failure. In your 20s, success is often borrowed. You chase goals that sound impressive, titles that look good, timelines that feel approved. Around 30, those borrowed definitions stop working. Your brain starts asking harder questions. Not, how do I win, but what actually matters to me? That question is unsettling because it doesn't come with a checklist. There's no universal answer, and your brain hates ambiguity. So it fills the silence with urgency, with pressure, with fear. It convinces you that if you don't figure everything out right now, you never will, which, psychologically speaking, is nonsense. Most people don't experience true life satisfaction until their 40s and 50s. Not because life gets easier, but because self-knowledge deepens, priorities sharpen, the noise fades. But when you're standing at the edge of 30, you can't see that yet. All you can see is the gap between expectation and reality. And gaps feel like failure, even when they're just space for growth. There's also grief involved, quiet grief. You're not just turning 30, you're saying goodbye to versions of yourself that never fully existed but felt possible. The life where everything worked out perfectly by now. The version of you who had it all figured out. Letting go of those imagined futures hurts, even if they were never realistic. And your brain processes that loss the same way it processes any ending. That's why turning 30 can feel emotionally heavier than turning 25 or 35. It's not about age. It's about identity recalibration. Your brain is renegotiating who you are, what you want, and how much time you think you have to get there. And here's the twist most people miss. That sense of urgency, it's not there to punish you, it's there to wake you up. It's your brain saying, stop living on autopilot. The discomfort is a signal, not a sentence. It's asking you to be intentional for the first time, not perfect. When you stop treating 30 like a deadline and start seeing it as a diagnostic, everything changes. Instead of asking, why haven't I achieved enough? You ask, what have I learned? Instead of measuring yourself against external timelines, you start noticing patterns. What drains you? What energizes you? What you've been avoiding? What you've outgrown? That awareness can feel scary. But it's also the foundation of real adulthood. Not the performative kind, but the grounded kind. The kind where you stop chasing lives that don't fit you and start building one that does. So if you're approaching 30 and your chest tightens a little every time you think about it, pause. That feeling doesn't mean you're behind. It means you're becoming conscious. And consciousness always arrives with discomfort before clarity. You don't need to have everything figured out by 30. You need to start asking better questions. And those questions will keep evolving because life isn't a race with a finish line at a certain age. It's a long conversation with yourself. And turning 30 is just the moment where the conversation gets real. If this resonated, take a moment and sit with it. Maybe even share in the comments what turning 30 feels like for you, or what you thought it would feel like versus what it actually does. And if you want to keep exploring the psychology behind these invisible life pressures we all carry, stick around. There's a lot more to unpack.